This is Brad A. Milford with the Unlimited Business Wisdom Podcast, where, yes, you already know, where business owners share their wisdom. It's short and to the point to respect people's time. And because we know transforming possibility happens really fast, it also leads to lasting results. That's the beauty in it, right? So enough of that intro stuff. Let's get to it. I have a very special guest today. In a few sentences, can you share who you are? I know you can. Would you be willing to share who you are and what you do?
Sure can, Brad. Thank you so much for having me on the show. My name is Steve Gamlin. I'm known professionally as the Motivational Firewood Guy, also the Vision Board Guy. I enjoy life as a professional speaker for nearly 20 years, as a coach and an expert in visualization, helping people, entrepreneurs, and company teams with vision boards, mapping out their goals, and also, of course, building an action plan to get to those goals.
I love that. Very clear and concise. And can you tell me about vision? Oh, that's some humor I'm dropping for anybody listening or watching right now. Humor to the humor guy. So yes. Just teasing, we had a conversation just before the podcast about how dry some things can be and how we were not going to do that on this podcast. So
it's like being asked questions by Alexa.
Just a little humor. That's where we're starting. Steve, could you share with me what the best thing is about being in business from your perspective?
Biggest thing for me, and I'm a veteran of the radio industry for about a decade or so, in my 20s and early 30s. What kept happening is radio stations would get bought out by a bigger company, and somebody would come in and say, this is a great thing. They're putting a big infusion of cash. And, oh, by the way, you're all fired. That happened twice. And I heard the rumblings of it happening again a third time at my third and what became my final radio station group. And I just said after that, I didn't really have anything to go to. I didn't have another full-time job or a career plan, but I quit and walked away from radio. And what followed was my whole life falling apart. What I decided that day was I would never have another 9-to-5 job. I would never be at the mercy of a big corporation or someone else for my future. I could sink, I could swim, I could burn the whole damn thing down, but I was going to be in charge of my destiny forever.
So one of the best things I hear about being in business for you is being able to rely upon yourself and not have to rely on other people. And I'm sure there's some freedom all rolled up into that as well.
There's freedom, there's chaos, there's fear, there's anxiety, and there's just sheer joy and bliss that I'm in charge of my creative destiny at all times. So every day that I wake up on the right side of the grass, I figure I have a shot to make something really good happen. So I get to connect with people like you and the people who are part of my tribe and my inner circle. And it's the greatest part of it. It's that I am in charge, for better or for worse. I'm in charge of this.
I love that. What I'm hearing is the grass is greener on the other side sometimes.
It can be, yeah, as long as you water it and you take care of it and you nurture it and you talk nice to it and you don't let other people's dog crap all over it. Yeah, it's great.
This is great. This is great. I love this. Moving on to question number 3, Steve. This is a fun one. This is my favorite question out of all these. We hear from other business owners. They're getting so much business, and it is true. They're getting so much business, so much abundance in the world. They're getting so much business that sometimes the chaos that can bring that, that comes with that, is causing some overwhelm. Would you be willing to share your thoughts on that, Steve?
I would be happy to, because I used to be one of them. Early on, before I built up the systems that I now have in place for my business, when I had to be in charge of every little detail and do everything. It's kind of like the old variety show guy who would spin a whole bunch of plates on these little pins. And they'd say, hey, congratulations. Look, he's got 20 plates spinning all at once. Oh, wait, those first 3 are starting to wobble. And you spend the rest of your time just trying to fix what you've already got going on. And it's so easy. Now, several steps I took to overcome this is really starting to dig down and schedule out my day. I work off of a Google Calendar. I also work off of a Book Like a Boss page so that when people want to reach out to me, they can't just pick up the phone and call anymore. Get on my calendar. Get on my calendar. I will not answer my phone during the day unless I know who it is. Get on my calendar. That allows me to make sure it fits into what I've already got scheduled. There are no last minute emergencies. In none of these, I need to pick your brains. Another way I've overcome this is establish my core values. A gentleman named Thomas Keenan wrote a book called Un-F Your Business. I won't say the real word. Core values exercise. And I went through this almost a year ago and determined mine are build the best relationships, create a vivid vision, cultivate kindness with every conversation, and be fun as hell to work with. That core value exercise alone has determined who I will even allow in as a client. We need to match, or at least have enough common ground that we want to work together. That has reduced a lot of chaos because those are non-negotiable for me. You violate those, you're out. And I have to show up every day and live up to them as well. So I'm not saying it to be arrogant. Just those things about scheduling and core values have taken so much of the stress and chaos out of my own business over the past most of the year since I joined Apex and started becoming part of this tribe of like-minded individuals who all live by the same processes and patterns.
I love that. Two really strong and powerful points there. I mean, some nuggets dispersed in between also, but the two that you drove home, that's such a big thing. Now, it sounds like some really simple advice, but I'm with you on this. One of the big game changers for me was when I implemented a system just like you described. And to illustrate that for someone who may have not experienced that yet, because I really want to highlight and showcase what you just said on the first point, which is just putting some automations in place to get on your calendar instead of that randomness. Just even messaging in the world we live in today. I know, if you're listening and watching, the world we live in today, right? It's fast paced. There's a lot of social media. There's Messenger. There's all these different programs and chats coming at you left and right. If you're creating anything on the internet web today, right, then it comes at you pretty fast. And if you don't have automations, then it's these conversations like, well, what day and time works for you? Okay, no, that day doesn't work for you. Oh no, wait, how about Thursday? Oh no, wait, how about the week after next? Oh my goodness, if you're doing that 10 or 12 times a week, you are eating up your time. So again, I just want to highlight and showcase a very powerful point that you've brought up. Is put some calendar automations in and start structuring your day that way around, it's so powerful. Thank you. Yeah. And it's just good best practice. Any other thoughts you want to share about that, Steve?
Yeah. About 3 years ago now, I had started working with a mentor, business coach. He was also my digital marketing director for a couple of years. His name was Lonnie Robinson, and he's since passed away, but oh my gosh, his lessons. One of our very first Zoom calls when we were getting to know each other, and he was feeling me out as to what I needed and how he could help me. He said, lean out of the shot for a second. And I did. He says, what's all those sticky notes on your wall? I said, well, that's, kind of my calendar of people that want to get together and connect and all this and that. He goes, and how's that working for you? And it was summer. So I said, well, it's okay until the window's open and the ceiling fan is on. He goes, yeah, brother, we got to sit down. He goes, our first project together is to get you a calendar. And he said, technology is amazing. It'll talk to Zoom. It'll talk to your website. It'll talk to your calendar. It'll send you email reminders and all this. He said, brother, we got to just start with a calendar. He goes, I'm not even going to build your website yet. We got to start with that. And even, right up until right before he passed away, we were still joking about the sticky notes on the wall. And he goes, yeah, I remember what you said about your ceiling fan. He goes, I don't want you picking up your appointments off the floor. He goes, we're going to get you organized. And that was one of the biggest game changers of my business, of my professional career. Really
100% with you. 100% with you. So powerful. And it's shocking and surprising to me. And I mean this from a humble place, but it's shocking and surprising to me how many people are still in that space in business today. It might be time. If this is hitting you hard, it might be time to give it somebody and do something about that. Technology
and don't be afraid to honor yourself in there too. There are full days I will not full days, but I'll black out 4, 5, 6 hours when I say, look, I got to get all this stuff here done. So nobody can book a time in that slot. And oh my gosh, my productivity has gotten so much better because I'm not distracted by the beeps, the buzzes, the vibrations, the tones, the alerts, the anything. That's my time. Head down either upstairs in my office or here in the recording studio, just getting stuff done during those times. So schedule yourself in there as well.
Love it. It's freeing up time for us to be on the podcast right here with you today, everybody listening, watching, and to be with one another at the same time, which is great. And I don't want to overlook what you said about values and the power of values in the last couple of podcasts. We've talked about that pretty in depth. But it's powerful stuff. If you heard it before and you still, I know you've heard it at least 3 times. And if you haven't done something, do so. Moving on. We're going to get to some wisdom here in just a moment. Bear with us. Question number 4. This is always a fun question too. What other successful business owners, like yourself, of course, should be on the Unlimited Business Wisdom podcast?
One of them may already have been. I have a sneaking suspicion that he has a gentleman named Chris Whitehead, who's been a huge part of my life. We've been running together for a little over a decade, and now even more closely than ever, I'm actually part of his organization as well as my own business. Another one is a powerful woman named Jennifer Jolliker. She's known as Mother Goddess Jen. She's the CEO of a company called Athena's Home Novelties, and I've been teaching them vision boards every January for the past 13 years. Another one is a gentleman named Brian K. Wright. Brian is the host of Success Profiles Radio, founder of Success Profiles Magazine, and also helps people to write and publish their books. He rescues people from their own fears and overwhelm about creating and publishing a book. And then the fourth one is a woman named Mary Beth Gustitis. She is very powerful and successful here in New Hampshire as part of 2 Keller Williams offices. And she and I met more than 10 years ago at a fundraising event when I was at a golf course measuring how far people could whack a marshmallow with a golf club. And we crossed paths, and she saw me with a gym bag full of marshmallows and said, "I got to ask, what are you doing here?" And I said, "I'm measuring how far people can hit them." And she said, "I can't imagine this is what you do for work." And I said, "No, I'm actually a speaker." And she became my biggest referral source and my biggest client for a number of years. And I just love and respect everything she's doing.
I love it. I love it. So yes, and Chris has been on, but it's not released yet. But by the time this one is released, he'll have been on. So awesome. Chris is, but the other 3, I look forward to connecting with them also. Great recommendations. And I love how you described what they each do. That's great. Great power in that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Let's get to some wisdom. You ready?
I am.
What piece of wisdom would you share with other business owners?
Big thing, especially in my lane of visualization, because so many people think vision boards are these arts and craft sort of projects, or they say, "Oh, we're going to have a vision board party at work and everyone's going to establish their goals." And I say, "Oh, dear God, I've got a t-shirt line, and on the back it says, 'Friends don't let friends attend vision board parties.'" Now, what I believe every leader should do is understand that every single person who's a part of their team has personal and professional goals, but it's not a work-life balance. I believe they need to understand that, at least in the areas that I work with the standard life wheel. I've adjusted it a bit for my needs and my mission. Career, finances, physical health, emotional well-being, your relationships, your ethics, morals, and values that guide you, your faith and spirituality, if that's an important part of your life, and your connection to the world in a real way. Those things are operating in our lives 24/7, whether or not we're paying attention to them. So we probably should. And I believe great leaders are the ones who understand that the people who are part of their team have all of those in their lives. And it's important to stress and to be interested in what those are, what they look like, feel like, sound like, smell like for each of their people. And if nothing else, buy each of your team members a picture frame and ask them to put whatever's most important to them in their lives in that frame. And systematically, as you go through the office, or if you're on remote, if you're on Zoom calls, ask people, what's the story behind that picture? Why is this such an important part of your life? And how can your involvement here with our team, what can we do to support you to help you get there? It could be a family member. It could be a wedding. It could be kids for college. It could be a retirement home. It could be a boat you're all going to fish off someday when, in the future. but be very interested and understand that the people are there for a reason. And when you understand the why, and you know what that is in an emotionally connected way, you can help to get people there and help support them in any way you can. And I just think there's too many people out there who don't get that. And to some people, that's very artsy fartsy, airy fairy, unicorn, glitter and rainbows, but it really isn't. And one thing that COVID has taught me, so many people that I've spoken to over the past couple of years, now that they're getting back to maybe being a hybrid or part-time in the office, are saying, I don't want to go back to the way it was. I like my job. I like what I do, but oh my gosh, the mindset that I was in before, I need something more. I need to be more connected. it needs to be more rewarding. I need to feel a part of it and not just this robotic push everything else aside. And sometimes it only takes minutes a day to take care of one of those areas of your life. And I asked 3 different gentlemen, all highly successful recently. Does your wife like coffee? Yeah. What's her favorite flavor? I don't know, man, but she got them pods everywhere. I said, okay, tomorrow put her favorite flavor, her favorite mug, make sure there's enough water in the Keurig. And if you have a thing where you can preset it, do that. If not, leave a note. Hey, honey, your coffee's all set to go. Just push the button. Have a great day. Love you. 3 of them started doing it. 2 are still doing it. And at least one of them, their wife still texts them a thank you message at least once a week. That's what I believe leaders need to understand about their teams.
Nice, proactive, and very real. I love what you're sharing here. And yes, I have been exposed to some of those unicorn type exercises too. Having been through some of this vision stuff. So I understand, truly, I understand, why some people feel that way or think that way. Right.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I love that you're breaking this. One of the things that really stood out to me about what you said is if you're carrying, and if you're listening and watching, and you're carrying that, it's just like, oh, visualization stuff. It's just like kumbaya and all that.
Mm-hmm.
It's really powerful stuff when you're taught, when you walk through the exercise, through the exercise with somebody that actually knows what they're doing, like yourself, who can actually, guide you through that, if you will. It's really, really powerful. The thing that really stood out to me is the fact that you said being able to see it, being able to feel it. I'll even go as far as like just to touch it. With all the sensory experiences around that, that's super powerful. And many people have never walked through exercises like that before. Many people are just not even in tune with and I'm not dogging you right now if you're in the space, but they're just not in tune with their sensory perceptions because they come so natural. So I know the power that can be, drawn from that. And if you've never been through it, hey, so you've never had exposure. It's just unfamiliar.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
The other thing, so that's really powerful. And well, I'll just pause there. What thoughts do you have about that, Steve?
Yeah, you see, like you said, with the senses, and a lot of people do see it as very kumbaya, as very guru and all of that. But I have real conversations. I mean, my background, I mean, blue collar values, ethics, hard work, elbow deep in the mud with my clients and really working on this stuff. And when you really break it down and take away all that cosmic glitter that a lot of people throw at it, it's just real people going through real life in a real way, just being connected to who they are, why they do what they do, and where they want to go, and not be distracted by the shiny object syndrome. Knowing why you want something, deeply emotionally connected, is going to keep you from allowing pebbles to turn into Jersey barriers and block your way. When you know why you're doing what you're doing, you're going to go over, under, around, or bash right through anything that gets in your way. And you're going to celebrate the hell out of it when you get there. But it's a process. There's no snapping your fingers, instant fix, instant results. I mean, one of my oldest stories literally came from the lowest point of my life. I was riding an old wooden roller coaster and get in at the bottom and realized my goal was the top of that hill. And I had to sit through every little single step and click, and people behind me, some complaining, some talking about how much fun it was going to be. You just had to get over the top of that hill so I could scream my brains out. And goals are like that. They get boring sometimes. My goal this year is to go from 247 pounds, which I was a year ago, to 210. And I'm right now, this morning I was at 224, because every day I get up and I walk a mile plus in my basement because it's really cold out. And with my ankle weights held together by duct tape so they won't leak sand all over the basement, and eat well and make good decisions, haven't had a drop of alcohol in 10 months, and all these little things every day to get there. They're not gorgeous. They're not glamorous. Some of them aren't fun, but I know why I want to get there. And I'm just going to keep clicking every day. And I think everybody has to understand that in the age of instant results and the latest magic formula, secret crap. Nope. Do the work.
Love it.
Do it.
Absolutely love that. You know, getting to brass tacks, getting down to the work is so powerful. And I love that you said also that it's, you know, sometimes it's just not glamorous. We just got to get over ourselves and just, you know, piece it together. You were so humble there when you said, look, it might not be pretty, but I'm getting it done. Right.
Yep.
The other thing that really was powerful. So the visualization, being able to feel it, touch it, see it, know that it's there, know where you're headed, right? And getting the work done. The other thing was the emotion side of it, right? So attaching the emotion into it, knowing your why, knowing what's driving you. Look, when things are not easy, then that's when you need that stuff. And so if you're missing that factor, I love that you highlighted that. And I know you have deep experience here and that you walk the talk, but for anybody listening or watching, if you miss that factor, if you don't do the work and you don't have the emotion attached to it, then you're probably going to give up, like all those resolutions, right? And I think using your analogy, that's where a pebble gets turned into a Jersey barrier, right? Love that analogy, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, it's true. Believe me, I've been on that road before, and you know, distract. When I figured out my why as a speaker, and that was early on in my career, never questioned it since. I've got to get on stage. I've got to be on camera. I've got to be behind a mic, got to be on radio shows. I'm all around the world almost every week having conversations with people because I know why I do this, even on the worst, most challenging days, disappointing days. And it's not all glamorous, believe me. Although I've just been dressing up nicely for next week, it'll be 2 years and saved me a ton on dry cleaning, which is a beautiful thing. But I know why I show up every single day, the way I show up. It's just part of my DNA now.
Great. Clear vision answers all of that. Solution to all of that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Steve, I want to ask you something that is on your website that caught my attention.
Yeah.
And so the visualization is great, but then you start to speak into action plans. Yeah. Talk to me about the power of having an action plan, please, because it escapes and shocks me still to this day on companies. And it's not just companies starting out. Some seasoned companies don't have an action plan. Would you be willing to share your thoughts on that, Steve?
Oh, of course. Yeah. Too many people out there, they set these goals and they rah, this is going to be great. And they've got all the fireworks going off and the colorful banner and this amazing social media presence. And maybe they hire some influencers to be out there talking about it, but they don't actually have an action plan to achieve it or to get all the mechanics behind it. Now, anybody with an engineering type brain is in the back of the room panicking because they know the company doesn't have all of these things. And I'm the farthest thing from an engineering mind, but I understand that we can't just wish for stuff. One of the reasons I talk about action plans so much is because programs like The Secret, which I got on DVD in the early 2000s, right before I became a speaker, they talk about the law of attraction. They talk about success. They talk about picturing it in your head and just imagining how great things are going to be. And they actually cast a genie and a magic lamp in there. Your wish is my command, which to me, and I like a lot of the stuff The Secret said, so I'm not bashing them. I just think they did all of us a disservice by including that, because we have got to bust out the tools. We have to draw schematics. We have to have a plan to get there. We have to know what's at the top of that first hill of the roller coaster. We have to know what all of those individual steps are to get there. We can't just wish for it. And I see so many people out there are sitting on their couch saying kumbaya to themselves. And I'll say, what are you doing? I'm manifesting. No, you're not. You're sitting on your butt. Your butt and that couch need a divorce. You got to get out there and start taking actions every single day and have a plan. Write it out, draw it out, hire somebody who's smarter than you are, who's already done the work to tell you what the steps are, but you got to be in motion. You can't just wish for this stuff. And some days it's as subtle, for me anyway. I wanted to, in 2007, one of my goals was to find the woman to fall in love with for the rest of my life. I'd been divorced about 3-4 years at that point, had really worked on myself, done a ton of work, put myself in a good place. And I just said, I am ready to fall in love. I actually wrote it out. 10 days later, I got an email that I almost deleted as spam. And how often do we do this? It's just junk. It was from a woman I hadn't seen or spoken to in 21 years, on whom I had a crush in high school for 3 years, but never had the guts to ask out. 10 days after I wrote down I was ready to fall in love, she sent me an email from over 1,000 miles away. This June's our 15th anniversary.
Nice. Congratulations.
Took all the actions, was ready, saw the opportunity, didn't just sit there wishing for love, saw the opportunity, took more action. I'm still taking action every single day. Every day it's my job to let her know how loved she is after 15 years. So when you do find success, don't let people say you're lucky if you took all the actions.
I love it. I love it. Lots of subtle hints, lots of book recommendation, all kind of stuff in what you just dropped. Where preparation and opportunity meet for success. I mean, there's a lot of stuff, but there's also some proactivity that you threw in there, just being proactive instead of reactive. There's a lot of lessons in what you dropped. And so if you're listening or watching and that escaped you, I encourage you to just, I don't have one of those reverse buttons, but just like reverse and just listen to that one more time, because there was some real value in what you dropped. So Steve, I appreciate you. I know that you and I could talk business, do speakers on a call. We could just go and go and go. Right.
Yep.
So I appreciate you. And given we could talk business all the time, but there's a reason why we're in business, right? So we work to live, not live to work. I hope. I'm imagining we share this in common. So let's shift gears away from business for a moment, if you will. And I'd like to know, what's the most fun vacation you've ever had?
It's going to have a hint of business in it, so I hope
that's okay.
It'll come around to it. In a humorous way is how business is tied into it.
It's all good.
About 7 years ago, my wife and I and another couple who we've known, I went to high school with the wife of this couple as well. And we went out to Las Vegas. And it was the first time I'd ever been. And I'm not much of a gambler. I like to play blackjack, but I'm not great at it. So I play at the kiddie table where the dealer will say, yeah, you don't want to do that. So we went out to Vegas. It was really cool. We caught a couple of shows. The biggest thing I wanted to do when I was out there was jump off the 108th floor of the Stratosphere Hotel, because here's what's great about America. We build some of the tallest buildings in the world, and being America and being capitalistic, we charge people to jump off them. We make them like a ride or an amusement park. There's a little roller coaster up there as well. So all I wanted to do all week was just jump off of the 108th floor of the Stratosphere. So I scheduled it. I think it cost me, with the GoPro camera for my wrist, $132. And they gave me a little instruction up top, and you're tied to a cable. It's not a bungee. It's like the winch on the front of a Jeep, but it's a really big one with 108 stories worth of cable on it. And the young lady who was up there said, okay, you ready? On the count of 3, then you'll go. And in my head, there was a little voice that said, you can deduct this jump off your taxes. Because in that moment, I came up with a lesson on how to overcome fear. My biggest fear while I was up there was not heights. Doesn't bother me. I've jumped out of 3 perfectly good airplanes from 2.5 miles up. Heights aren't bad. Fear of dying doesn't bother me. When I go, I go. That's it. My biggest fear was when she said 3, that my hands wouldn't let go of the railing. And all my friends would laugh that I was like a little girl up there scared and hanging on. And if there was an edit in the video, they would know I chickened out. So in that moment, I just thought of all this. I said, I got to go. What am I afraid of? I'm afraid of not letting go. How do you overcome that? You actually let go. And so she said 3, and my wife was down below filming this. And somebody asked her, so did Steve just fall off the platform? She goes, he freaking Supermaned halfway across the landing zone on his jump. And I told her afterward, I said, I had to let go. So I just dove. So there was no question at all. And the next year for my taxes, my accountant says, "What's this?" I said, "I jumped off a tall building." He goes, "And you're deducting it? Why?" I said, "I got a picture and a video and I tell the story on stage at my professional events." That was research. Check. So that was my most fun thing on vacation, was learning a lesson about overcoming fear that I now share on stage.
I love that. As an action guy myself, I really love that story. Thank you for sharing. I really do. I know exactly what you're talking about, and I love those kinds of things. And overcoming fear is super powerful. I really love what you shared. I love that you wrapped that in a story, but those lessons, so many people are afraid of dying. So many people just afraid of so much stuff that just literally holds them back. Steve, there's a lot of, I don't really want to use the word value. There's a lot of lessons in what you shared. So whether it's just fun stuff that you're doing, activities, around your local area, or whether you're on vacation, there's a lot of lessons that can be learned if you open up to those.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that you shared that. And apparently you can deduct them on your taxes too, which is great.
As long as it's part of your business. I mean, it was legit. I did have to explain it to my CPA before he would let it go, but he goes, well played, check.
Indeed. Well played. So in a moment, I'm going to ask you how people can reach out to you, but would you be willing to share? I know you've been very humble. You got some really cool stuff going on, and you've been really humble on this podcast. And can you share, just from your perspective, like some of the cool activities, some of the cool campaigns? What do you got going on, Steve?
I've got the Vision Board Mastery Program, which is a 10-step simple audio program for people that are interested, whether it be individuals, entrepreneurs, or company teams, because I work with companies of all sizes, to really just give them all the steps to get through. I had 3 companies call me in January. "We want to have you do a vision board event." All right. Do you want to have a fun activity, or are you that interested in people personally and professionally? What's the difference? I said, if you're just looking for fun activity, get 3 cases of beer and a karaoke machine, because I'm not your guy. So that program literally walks people through first to the action guide and beyond. Also for people who are just brand new to visualization and want to understand what it even works like, I've got a free video on there. If you go to motivationalfirewood.com/bonus5, and it's the number 5. It's called Visualize in 5. It's 8.5 minutes long. You can hit your snooze button in the morning and watch it, and then your alarm will go off again. Then you can get up and get off your butt and start your day. But that coaching programs as well, group, as well as got a growing number of one-on-one coaching clients who are taking the vision board work, and we just keep growing with it, because they keep asking, what's next? What could I do next? Well, it's up to you. Let's have a conversation. So that's the big thing this year, is the coaching programs.
Love it. And I love that you said that. Let's just have a conversation, see where you are. That's why you're on this podcast today, because that's what makes the world go round, is these types of conversations. So I love that you captured that. And so what is the best way when somebody watches this, they hear it, they listen to it, whatever they do with it, whatever you're doing with it, and they want to reach out because they've been impacted by you? What's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Yeah, best way to reach out to have a conversation is go to my calendar, which is 𝐶hats, CHATS.com. Get on the calendar. We have a conversation. I can answer any questions you have. And if I can add value in some way, just with a simple conversation, I'm very happy to do that.
So powerful. And I love that you drop a calendar link too. There's a lot of people, and we were talking about fear, like a lot of people are just afraid to reach out to one another. Yeah. I encourage you, listen to the vacation story / business story that he shared, and really just break the fear and just have a simple conversation. That's the way of the world today. That's how we begin to grow and step out of our comfort and move on. So Steve, I really appreciate you. I know that you literally took a chunk out of your day to be here with one another in order to share and serve. And so I really want to celebrate you for that. I want to highlight you for that. And I want to thank you. So kudos to you for doing that.
I'm truly honored. Thank you so much for having me.
Yep. This is Brad A. Milford with the Unlimited Business Wisdom Podcast, where this is fun. Business owners making 5 figures, 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures, 9 figures, 9 figures, 10, 12. Look, We hear a lot of stuff about that on the internet today, but it's not all about the money. Of course, it's about the money, but it's not all about the money. It's about sharing wisdom and creating global impact to make the world a better place. And I'll leave this with you. There's unity in community. Thanks for joining us.